It began quietly. No riots, no speeches, no grand announcements. Just a small sign taped to a store window, card only. At first, it felt like progress. Cleaner, faster, modern. No more fumbling for coins or waiting for change. Just tap and go. But beneath that convenience, something deeper was happening. Something ancient was being erased. The freedom to use money without permission was disappearing, one swipe at a time. For most of human history, money meant independence. A coin in your hand was power. You could buy, sell, or trade with anyone, anywhere. No one could erase that transaction or decide whether it was valid. Money was trust in physical form. It was anonymous, universal, and human. But the modern world does not like freedom. It cannot track that. In the middle of the 20th century, plastic replaced paper. The first credit cards arrived with the promise of ease and modernity. Buy now, pay later, they said, and millions did. Every new payment method, from cards to online banking to mobile wallets, was sold as innovation. Yet each innovation brought one hidden cost: visibility. What you bought, when you bought it, how often you bought it, all quietly recorded. By the 2020s, cash had nearly vanished in many countries. ATMs were disappearing. Shops proudly displayed, "No cash accepted." The change happened so gradually that few questioned it. We were told this was evolution, not control. But behind every digital transaction is a record, a permanent entry in a system owned by someone else. Your bank, your government, a payment processor halfway across the world. Your financial life, once private, had become a stream of data, analyzed, categorized, monetized. Digital money is not evil. It is efficient, elegant, convenient, but it is also the perfect surveillance tool. It turns every purchase into a data point, every payment into a permission slip. Cash, on the other hand, is invisible. It leaves no digital trail. That's why it had to go. Governments and corporations began a slow, methodical campaign to make cash obsolete. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was policy. Withdrawal limits, transaction caps, anti-money laundering, regulations. Step by step, rules were written that made cash seem dangerous, even suspicious. They told us it was about fighting crime and terrorism, but criminals adapted faster than citizens did. Ordinary people, small shop owners, farmers, workers, were the ones caught in the crossfire. Using cash became a red flag. Large withdrawals triggered reports. Deposits invited scrutiny. Slowly, cash began to vanish, not because people stopped using it, but because the system stopped allowing it. Then came the turning points. In 2016, India banned 86% of its currency overnight. The goal, they said, was to purge black money. The reality was chaos. Millions stood in endless lines outside banks, clutching the notes that had fed them for decades. They weren't criminals, they were citizens suddenly cut off from their own wealth. In one announcement, an entire nation's liquidity evaporated. Elsewhere, the war was quieter. In Sweden, cash became almost extinct by the late 2010s. Even street performers accepted only digital tips. The country was celebrated as a model of a cashless society, efficient, traceable, tax-friendly. Then a storm hit. Power failed. The grid went down. Overnight, the digital economy froze. No one could pay for food or transport. The nation had built the perfect financial machine, but forgot that machines depend on electricity. These moments revealed the truth. In a cashless world, money is no longer freedom. It is permission, and permission can be denied. The next stage is already here: central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. They sound technical, even boring, but they are revolutionary. Unlike Bitcoin, they are not decentralized. They are issued directly by central banks, programmed to obey policy. Every digital coin can be tracked, frozen, or made to expire. It is programmable money, smart, efficient, and completely controllable. Imagine receiving stimulus funds that must be spent within 30 days, or else they vanish. Imagine a tax rate that adjusts automatically when you buy meat instead of vegetables. That is the level of precision a programmable currency allows. In theory, it is about efficiency. In reality, it is about power. Because once money becomes code, control becomes effortless. A wallet can be frozen with a few keystrokes. A region can be sanctioned instantly. A citizen can be silenced not by law, but by algorithm. In 2022, during protests in Canada, several citizens had their bank accounts frozen without trial. The justification was public order. Their money simply stopped working. No judge, no hearing, just a digital switch. What happens when that power becomes normal? When dissent can be muted by denying financial access? We are told not to worry. If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear. But history teaches otherwise. Power expands until it meets resistance. And digital money gives power a new frontier: silent, invisible, absolute. What began as a war on crime has turned into a war on anonymity. Each tap of a card, each scan of a QR code strengthens a system that knows you better than you know yourself. Your habits, your beliefs, your weaknesses, all reduced to patterns of of consumption. Who you are becomes what you buy. And yet, the world celebrates. Ads promise ease, apps promise freedom, influencers praise the end of bold money. But behind the smiles, the infrastructure of control is solidifying. Every digital wallet connects to a server. Every server obeys a rule. Every rule serves an interest. When the grid is the gatekeeper, freedom is conditional. Cash, in contrast, asks no permission. It works in blackout, in crisis, in silence. It is the only form of money that cannot be censored. But we treat it as outdated, a relic of an unclean, unsafe past. And that's exactly how control wins, by making freedom look inconvenient. Look around any modern city. ATMs turned into coffee kiosks. Bank branches closing by the hundreds. Children growing up without ever touching a banknote. An entire generation being taught that money lives only on a screen. What happens when that screen decides to stop showing your balance? Money, once the great equalizer, has become the ultimate filter. Those who control access to digital payments control participation in society. You can be wealthy, but if the system locks you out, your wealth becomes a number that means nothing. And unlike old dictatorships, no one needs to seize your property. They can simply freeze it. The irony is that cash was once seen as the corrupt medium, the tool of smugglers and tax evaders. Now it stands as the last refuge of financial privacy. It is the only way left to buy something without leaving a trace. In a world obsessed with transparency, privacy itself has become suspicious. Every empire in history has sought to control trade. The modern empire controls it not through armies, but through payment rails. It does not need soldiers to occupy. It just needs code to approve or deny. A citizen obediently taps their phone, and a silent algorithm decides whether the transaction aligns with policy. We have traded autonomy for efficiency, privacy for convenience. It feels harmless until it isn't. When everything is connected, everything can be disconnected. When every coin is digital, every coin can be deleted. Cash is not just paper. It is a principle. That value belongs to people, not systems. It is proof that trust can exist outside authority. It is messy, inefficient, wonderfully human. To hold it is to hold a small piece of freedom that no one can revoke. If cash disappears completely, it won't be because people chose it. It will be because they were never given a choice. The infrastructure will fade, the habit will die, and one day, a child will ask why old movies showed people handing paper to each other. We will smile and say, that was before money could think. But money should never think. It should serve. The moment money obeys someone other than you, it stops being yours. Perhaps this is progress. Perhaps a digital, traceable world truly is safer, cleaner, fairer. But we must ask, at what cost? The ability to buy food, to travel, to live, should these depend on approval from a system? When every transaction requires permission, permission becomes power. And whoever holds that power holds you. The war on cash was never loud. It did not need to be. It won through convenience, through design, through the quiet erosion of habit. And now, the last physical link between citizen and value is fraying. Before the silence becomes permanent, remember this: freedom does not vanish overnight. It fades, one tap at a time. When money becomes permission, freedom becomes conditional. And when freedom becomes conditional, it isn't freedom anymore. So ask yourself, before the last coin falls silent, if tomorrow your money could be turned off with one click, would you still call it yours?